My nephew shouted at dinner, "Uncle, you're a failure next to my real dad." The whole family gasped at the 3,000 college fund. "Who's paying your tuition?" Then his father walked in and I watched him crumble. The sound of shattering glass echoed through our dining room like a gunshot, and 23 years of keeping my mouth shut ended right there in front of the mashed potatoes and green beans. My nephew Tyler stood there, his face red with the kind of righteous anger only an 18-year-old who thinks he knows everything can muster. His finger still pointed at me like he was delivering some kind of final judgment. The wine glass I'd been holding lay in pieces at my feet, dark red liquid spreading across my sister Margaret's pristine white tablecloth, like blood from an old wound that had finally been ripped open. "You want to know about your real dad?" I heard myself say, my voice so calm it surprised even me. "You want to know why I'm such a failure compared to him? Sit down, Tyler, everyone sit down. Because after tonight, this family will never be the same. And you're going to hear every single word of the truth you think you want so badly." The Thanksgiving dinner had started like every other one for the past 5 years since Tyler had come to live with us full-time. Margaret, my older sister, had outdone herself with the cooking as always, filling the dining room with the smell of turkey and sage, sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top, and her famous cornbread stuffing that our grandmother had taught her to make before she passed. The table was set for 12, though we were only 8 this year. My younger brother Pete had come up from Atlanta with his new wife Sandra, their first holiday as a married couple. Margaret's husband Bob sat at the head of the table like always, carving the turkey with the same precision he brought to his dental practice. Their daughter Emma, home from her sophomore year at State, was helping her mom bring dishes from the kitchen while sneaking bites when she thought no one was looking. Tyler's girlfriend Ashley had joined us for the first time, a sweet girl from his high school who seemed nervous about meeting the whole family, her hands folded carefully in her lap as she sat beside him. And then there was me, sitting in my usual spot halfway down the table, the uncle who had moved back home after what everyone politely called my setback, but what was really the spectacular collapse of everything I'd built in New York. The uncle who drove a 10-year-old Honda instead of the BMW I used to own. The uncle who worked at the local community college teaching business courses to kids who were probably never going to use them, instead of making deals in Manhattan like I used to. The uncle who had given up everything to come back here, though nobody at this table knew the real reason why. The conversation had started innocently enough, the way these things always do before they explode. Bob had been talking about the new wing they were adding to his dental practice, how business was booming, how he'd just hired 2 new hygienists. Pete was going on about his promotion at the bank, how he'd just closed on a gorgeous house in Buckhead, how Sandra was decorating it with stuff from that fancy furniture store downtown. Even Emma was glowing as she talked about making the dean's list again, how her professor wanted her to apply for this prestigious summer internship at a Fortune 500 company. Everyone had good news, success stories, accomplishments to share. Everyone except me. "So, Jack," Bob had said, cutting another piece of turkey with surgical precision, "how are things at the community college? Still teaching those night classes?" There was something in his tone, not quite condescension, but close enough to make my jaw clench. Before I could answer, Tyler had jumped in, his voice dripping with the kind of disdain that made me wonder where the sweet kid who used to beg me to take him to baseball games had gone. "Yeah, Uncle Jack's really living the dream," he'd said, not even trying to hide the sarcasm. "Teaching kids barely older than me at a community college. Real impressive stuff. Not like my actual dad, you know. My real dad who's out there actually making something of himself instead of hiding in this dead-end town, pretending to be something he's not." The table had gone quiet for a moment, that uncomfortable silence that falls when someone says what everyone's been thinking, but too polite to voice. Margaret shot Tyler a warning look, but he was on a roll now, emboldened by whatever story he'd built up in his head about the father he hadn't seen in 5 years. "My dad's a real businessman," Tyler continued, his chest puffing out with pride for a man who hadn't called him on his birthday in 3 years. "He's got investments, properties, connections. He's not stuck teaching Business 101 to a bunch of losers who couldn't get into a real college. He's out there in the real world, making real money, being a real success. Not like," and here he gestured at me with his fork, "not like whatever this is." That's when Margaret had tried to intervene, her voice taking on that motherly tone that usually shut down any family conflict before it could really start. Tyler, that's enough. Your Uncle Jack has done more for this family than you know. He's been here for you, for all of us when we needed him. That matters more than money or success or whatever you think. Been here? Tyler had laughed, an ugly sound that made Ashley shift uncomfortably beside him. You mean mooching off you and Bob? Living in the guest house rent-free? Driving that piece of junk car that breaks down every other week? Yeah, what a hero. At least my real dad has some pride. At least he's not a failure who gave up on life and came crawling back home with his tail between his legs. That's when I'd stood up, the wine glass in my hand, and that's when Tyler had delivered his final blow, the one that made the glass slip from my fingers and shatter on the floor. You're pathetic, Uncle Jack. A complete failure next to my real dad, and everyone at this table knows it. They're just too polite to say it. But I'm not. I'm sick of pretending you're some kind of father figure when you're nothing but a washed-up loser who couldn't hack it in the real world. My real dad, wherever he is, whatever he's doing, he's 10 times the man you'll ever be. The sound of that glass breaking had been like a starting gun, and suddenly everyone was talking at once. Bob was telling Tyler to apologize. Margaret was almost in tears. Pete was trying to calm everyone down. Sandra looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Emma was yelling at Tyler for being an ungrateful brat, and Ashley was tugging on Tyler's sleeve, begging him to sit down. But Tyler wasn't done. He pulled out his phone, showing us all a picture from Instagram. His father standing next to a red Ferrari, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. Look at this, he said, waving the phone around. This is success. This is what a real man looks like. Not someone who can barely scrape together $3,000 for my college fund. $3,000. That's all you could manage after 5 years of supposedly caring about me? My dad probably spends that on a weekend trip. You're not my father, you'll never be my father, and I'm done pretending to be grateful for your pathetic attempts to fill his shoes. The $3,000. He had to bring up the $3,000. The check I'd written last week. Every penny I'd managed to save over the past year. Working extra classes, tutoring on weekends, skipping meals sometimes just to put a little more aside. He thought it was nothing. He had no idea what that money had cost me, what all of this had cost me. The room was spinning with voices, accusations, defenses, but all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears and Tyler's voice echoing, "You're a failure next to my real dad. You want to know about the college fund?" I said, my voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Everyone stopped talking, turning to look at me. You want to know who's paying your tuition, Tyler? You want to know about that $3,000? You want to know why it's only $3,000? Tyler crossed his arms, defiant to the end. Yeah, I do. Because my real dad would have had a proper college fund set up. He wouldn't be scrambling to come up with pocket change at the last minute. I laughed then, a sound that made Margaret flinch because she knew that laugh. She'd heard it the night I came back from New York. The night I showed up at her door with 2 suitcases and a story nobody would believe. Your real dad, I repeated, tasting the words like something bitter. You want to know about your real dad's college fund? The one he promised you? The one he's been talking about in those emails he sends you once a year. Let me tell you about your real dad's grand plans for your future. I walked over to the cabinet where Margaret kept the important papers, my hand steady now, purposeful. I knew exactly what I was looking for because I'd put it there myself 5 years ago, the day the lawyers had finished with all the paperwork. The folder was thick, full of documents Tyler had never seen. Documents Margaret and I had agreed he wouldn't see until he was older, until he could handle it. But apparently he thought he was ready for the truth now. Apparently he wanted to know about his real dad. 5 years ago, I began, pulling out the first document. Your father did set up a college fund for you. A beautiful fund, actually. $50,000 properly invested. Should have been worth almost $70,000 by the time you graduated high school. Want to know what happened to it? Tyler's face had gone pale, but he kept his chin up, still defiant. What are you talking about? This, I said, laying the document on the table, is a withdrawal slip. Dated 3 months before your father left. $50,000 withdrawn in full. Want to know what for? That Ferrari he's standing next to in that Instagram photo? That's not his. That's a rental. I know because I'm the one who tracked down the rental company when we were trying to serve him papers. Your college fund paid for his image, Tyler. Every penny of it went into maintaining the illusion that he's successful. Margaret stood up, reaching for the papers. Jack, don't, not like this. But I was done protecting Tyler from the truth. Done being the punching bag for his misplaced hero worship. No, Margaret. He wants to know about his real dad? He wants to know why I'm such a failure in comparison? Let him know. I pulled out another document. This is a court order. Child support. Your father owes $43,000 in back payments. Has for years. Want to know who's been covering it so your mom doesn't have to take him to court and drag this whole mess out in public? Want to know whose failure money has been keeping a roof over your head and food on your table? Bob stood up too, his face red. Jack, that's enough. We agreed to protect him, I shot back. But he doesn't want protection. He wants the truth about his successful father. So here's more truth. Another document hit the table. This is a police report from Atlantic City. Your father was arrested for fraud. He convinced 3 different women he was engaged to them, got them to invest in his business ventures. One of them was your mom's best friend from college. Remember Aunt Carol, Tyler? Remember how she used to come to every birthday party, every holiday, and then suddenly stopped? Your successful father stole $30,000 from her. She had to take out a second mortgage on her house. Tyler was shaking now, his girlfriend trying to pull him back into his chair, but he shrugged her off. You're lying. You're making this up because you're jealous, because you know you're nothing compared to him. You think I'm lying? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the contacts until I found what I was looking for. Let's call him right now. Let's call your successful father and ask him about your college fund. Let's ask him why he hasn't paid child support in 5 years. Let's ask him about the warrant for his arrest in Nevada, or the one in Florida, or the 2 in New Jersey. Let's ask him why every one of those photos he sends you is taken in a different state. Why he never has the same phone number for more than 3 months. Why his emails always come from different addresses. I hit the call button and put it on speaker. The phone rang once, twice, and then the automated message we all knew was coming. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. That's the 15th number he's had in 5 years, I said quietly. I know because I'm the one who tracks them down every time. I'm the one who tries to serve him papers. I'm the one who hired the private investigator to make sure he's at least alive. So we can tell you that much when you ask. Your successful father is a con artist, Tyler. He's not a businessman. He's not an investor. He's a criminal who preys on people who trust him. And the only reason he's not in prison is because he's very, very good at running. The room was dead silent now except for the sound of Tyler's heavy breathing. His face had gone from pale to red to a kind of sickly green. Ashley had her hand on his arm, but he didn't seem to notice. Margaret was crying silently, tears running down her face as she watched her nephew's world crumble. Bob had sat back down, his head in his hands. Pete and Sandra were frozen, looking like they wished they were anywhere else but here. Emma had her phone out, probably ready to call 911 if Tyler passed out, which looked like a real possibility. But the Instagram, Tyler whispered, his voice cracking like it had when he was 13. The pictures, the cars, the suits, the restaurants, all fake, I said, feeling exhausted suddenly, the anger draining out of me as I watched this kid I'd raised for 5 years struggle to process the truth. He takes those photos at car shows, in hotel lobbies he sneaks into, at restaurants where he orders water and leaves before the check comes. That suit in the photo? Look closer. It's the same suit in every picture, just with different ties. He probably bought it at a discount store and had it tailored to look expensive. Your father is very good at creating illusions, Tyler. It's what he does. It's who he is. But he told me, Tyler sank into his chair, all the fight gone out of him. He told me he was building something big. That when I graduated, he'd have a job waiting for me in his company. That we'd be partners. I sat down across from him, suddenly feeling every one of my 45 years. There is no company, Tyler, there never was. Those business cards he sent you? I had them analyzed. They're printed at home on a basic printer. The website for his supposed company? It's a template site that costs $15 a month. The office address? It's a UPS store mailbox. How do you know all this? Tyler asked, his voice small, broken. Why do you know all this? This was the part I'd never wanted to tell him. The part Margaret and I had sworn we'd keep secret until he was older, maybe forever. But he'd opened this door and now we all had to walk through it. Because 5 years ago when your father left, he didn't just leave, I said carefully. He stole from the family business. The business our father built that I was running in New York. He had access to the accounts because he was family, Because I trusted him. He took everything he could get his hands on and disappeared. $800,000, Tyler. He stole $800,000 and left me holding the bag. Margaret made a sound like a wounded animal, but I kept going. I could have pressed charges. Should have pressed charges. But that would have meant your father going to prison and you were 13 years old and still thought he hung the moon. So I made a deal with the investors. I liquidated everything I had. My apartment in Manhattan, my car, my retirement fund, my stocks, everything. I paid back every penny he stole and I took the hit to my reputation. That's why I can't get a job in finance anymore. That's why I came back here. That's why I teach at a community college and live in your parents' guest house. Not because I'm a failure, Tyler, but because I chose to protect you from knowing your father was a thief. Tyler was crying now. Ugly sobs that shook his whole body. Ashley had her arms around him, but he wasn't responding, just staring at the documents scattered across the table like they were pieces of his shattered world. Why? He managed to get out between sobs. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me say those things to you? Why did you let me treat you like that? Because you're a kid, I said simply. Because you deserve to have a few more years of thinking your father was just absent, not evil. Because every time you defended him, every time you talked about how successful he was, I could see the little boy who used to wait by the window for his dad to come pick him up for weekend visits that never happened. I thought if you could hold on to that image of him a little longer, maybe it would be easier when you finally learned the truth. But I've been so horrible to you, Tyler said, his voice muffled as he put his head down on the table. For years I've been so horrible. The things I've said, the way I've treated you. You didn't know, I said, reaching across to put my hand on his shoulder. He didn't pull away this time. You were angry at the wrong person, but the anger was real and it needed to go somewhere. I could take it. I'm an adult. I knew why you were really angry, even if you didn't. Bob cleared his throat, finally finding his voice. Jack, I owe you an apology too. The way I've talked to you, looked down on you. I had no idea. Margaret told me you'd had some business troubles, but this... God, I'm so sorry. Pete was nodding, his face pale. We all are. We all thought. Jesus, Jack, we thought you'd just failed at business. We had no idea you gave up everything to protect the family, to protect Tyler. I didn't want you to know, I said, feeling uncomfortable with their sympathy after so many years of their subtle judgment. It wasn't about being a martyr. It was about doing what was right. Tyler needed stability, not more chaos. He needed family, not a father in prison and his name all over the news as the son of a convicted felon. Emma had been quiet this whole time, but now she spoke up, her voice fierce. Tyler, you need to apologize to Uncle Jack right now for everything, for years of treating him like garbage when he literally gave up his entire life for you. But Tyler couldn't speak. He was sobbing too hard, his shoulders shaking as years of misdirected anger and hero worship came crashing down around him. Ashley was rubbing his back, whispering something in his ear, but he was beyond comfort. He'd built his entire identity around being the son of a successful businessman who just happened to be absent. Now he had to face being the son of a criminal who'd stolen from his own family. Margaret finally found her voice, though it was thick with tears. There's more, Tyler. Tell him the rest, Jack. Tell him about the college fund. I shook my head. Margaret, it doesn't matter. It does matter, she insisted. He needs to know. Tell him about the $3,000. I sighed, running my hand through my hair. The $3,000 isn't just from this year, Tyler. It's what I managed to save after paying your actual tuition. Tyler's head shot up, his face streaked with tears and snot. What? You got into state, remember? With partial scholarships? But even with the scholarships, there was still $12,000 a year to pay. Your mom and Bob were going to take out loans, but I knew what that would mean for their retirement. So I made a deal with the financial aid office. I've been paying your tuition directly, Tyler. Every semester for the past year, the $3,000 was just spending money. Money for books and supplies and all the things you'd need that aren't covered by tuition. But you said you could barely afford... Tyler couldn't finish the sentence. I work 4 jobs, I said quietly. The community college is just the main one. I tutor online at night, I do freelance accounting on weekends, and I write business articles for a website under a pseudonym. Every penny that doesn't go to basic survival goes to your education. Because that's what family does. That's what real love looks like. Not Instagram photos and empty promises, but showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when the person you're doing it for thinks you're a failure. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler looked like he'd been hit by a truck, his face cycling through emotions so fast I couldn't keep track. Shame, guilt, anger, grief, disbelief, and something else. Something that looked like the dawning of a terrible understanding. The baseball games, he whispered suddenly. When I was little. Dad was supposed to take me to my Little League games, but he never showed up. You were always there. Every game, I nodded. Every game. And the science fair in 6th grade. Dad promised he'd help me with my project, but he never called. You stayed up 3 nights in a row helping me build that volcano. It was a good volcano, I said, trying for a small smile. We got 2nd place. And when I broke my arm skateboarding and Mom couldn't leave work, and Dad didn't answer his phone, I drove you to the hospital. And every birthday when his present would be late, there'd always be an extra one from you that was exactly what I wanted. Lucky guesses, I lied. Tyler was putting it all together now. Years of memories reshuffling themselves with this new information. You've been my father, he said, his voice broken. This whole time you've been my father and I've been waiting for someone who doesn't exist. I've been cruel to the only real parent I've had since I was 13. Tyler, I started, but he cut me off. No, Uncle Jack. No. I need to say this. I need to. He stood up, swaying slightly, Ashley steadying him with a hand on his back. I've been the worst kind of person. Ungrateful, cruel, dismissive. I've thrown your sacrifices in your face. I've mocked your job, your car, your life. When everything about your life is the way it is because of me. Because you chose me over your career, over your reputation, over everything. He walked around the table, and before I knew what was happening, he was on his knees beside my chair, sobbing into my lap like he had when he was 13, and his father missed his birthday for the 3rd year in a row. I'm so sorry, Uncle Jack, I'm so sorry. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything you've done for me, but I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I put my hand on his head, feeling the familiar texture of his hair, the same cowlick he'd had since he was a baby. Get up, Tyler, come on, get up. Men don't need to kneel to apologize. He stood up shakily, wiping his face with his sleeve. How do I make this right? How do I make up for years of being awful to you? You don't, I said simply. You can't, you move forward. You do better, you learn from this. And maybe if I'm very lucky, you stop calling me Uncle Jack and just call me Jack. Because uncles don't do what I've done, but family does. And that's what we are, Tyler. Family. Messy, complicated, sometimes cruel, but family. Margaret was openly sobbing now, Bob holding her as she shook. Pete had tears running down his face and Sandra was dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. Emma had given up all pretense of composure and was ugly crying into her hands. Even Ashley, who'd just met us all today, was wiping away tears. But what about my father? Tyler asked, the word father sounding different now, hollow, uncertain. My biological father. Do I just forget he exists? No, I said carefully. He's still your father. He's still out there somewhere, running from his mistakes, living his hollow life. Maybe one day he'll stop running. Maybe one day he'll want to make amends. But you can't wait for that day, Tyler. You can't build your life around someone who isn't there. You have to build it around the people who are. Tyler nodded, then suddenly laughed, a watery, broken sound. The Ferrari. God, I showed everyone at school that picture. Told them my dad was going to buy me one for graduation. They must have known. Everyone must have known it was fake except me. People believe what they want to believe, I said. And you wanted to believe your father was a success. There's no shame in that. Every kid wants to be proud of their parents. But I should be proud of you, Tyler said fiercely. You're the one who's actually successful. Not in money or cars or any of that surface stuff, but in the ways that matter. You saved our family. You saved me. And I called you a failure. God, the irony. There was a sound from the front door, keys in the lock, and we all froze. Margaret and Bob exchanged confused looks. Everyone was already here. The door opened, and footsteps came down the hallway, confident, familiar in a way that made my blood run cold. He appeared in the doorway of the dining room like a ghost from the past. And even after 5 years, even after everything, Marcus Tyler Sr. still knew how to make an entrance. He was wearing that same suit from the Instagram photos I noticed, though it looked a little more worn in person. His hair was still perfectly styled, his smile still had that car salesman gleam, and his eyes still had that calculating look. scanning the room for opportunities, for marks, for angles to play. Well, he said, his voice exactly as I remembered it, smooth and false as snake oil. Looks like I'm just in time for dessert. Hello, family. Hello, son. Tyler made a sound like he'd been punched in the gut. Margaret stood up so fast her chair fell over. Bob stepped in front of his wife protectively. Pete pulled out his phone, probably ready to call the police. Emma grabbed a knife from the table. And me? I just sat there watching Marcus survey the room, watching him take in the documents scattered on the table, the tears on everyone's faces, the way Tyler was standing close to me instead of running to him. What are you doing here? Margaret's voice was ice cold, decades of anger compressed into 5 words. Marcus's smile never wavered. It's Thanksgiving. I thought I'd come see my family, my son. He looked at Tyler, and for just a moment something that might have been real emotion flickered across his face. You've grown, kid. Looked just like me when I was your age. How did you know where we were? Bob demanded. How did you get this address? Marcus laughed. That practiced laugh that used to charm everyone at parties. Come on, Bob, it's not that hard to find people these days. Besides, I've always known where you were. I've just been busy building something special, something worthy of coming back for. I stood up slowly, putting myself between Marcus and Tyler. You need to leave. Now. Jackie, Marcus said, like we were old friends meeting at a reunion. Good to see you too, brother. Still playing the hero, I see. Still protecting everyone from Big Bad Marcus. How's that working out for you? Still living in their guest house? Still teaching at that community college? He knows? Tyler asked, his voice small. You've been keeping tabs on us? Of course I know, Marcus said, his eyes never leaving mine. I know everything. I know Jack here has been playing daddy to you. I know he's been paying your tuition. I know he's been telling himself he's doing the right thing. St. Jack always sacrificing himself for others. It's actually kind of pathetic when you think about it. Pathetic? Tyler's voice was stronger now, angry. He gave up everything to clean up your mess. He destroyed his own life to protect me from knowing what you really are. Marcus's smile faltered for just a second. What I really am. And what's that, son? What has Uncle Jack been telling you? The truth, Tyler said, and I was proud of how steady his voice was. That you stole $800,000 from the family business. That you emptied my college fund. That you're wanted in 4 states for fraud. That every picture you've sent me is a lie. Every promise you've made is empty. Every word out of your mouth is manipulation. Marcus's face went through several expressions before settling on wounded innocence. Is that what he told you? And you believed him? Tyler, son, there are 2 sides to every story. Your uncle has his reasons for painting me as the villain. Ask yourself, who benefits from you hating me? Who gets to play father if I'm out of the picture? Don't, I warned. But Marcus was already moving, pulling out his phone, swiping through photos. Look, he said, showing Tyler the screen. This is my new office. My real office, not some fake. This is my business partner. This is the contract we just signed with a major corporation. I'm not running anymore, Tyler. I'm building something real this time. Something legitimate. And I came back to offer you a place in it. Tyler looked at the phone, then at me, confused, wavering. Marcus pressed on, sensing weakness. I know I've made mistakes, he said, his voice taking on that sincere tone he'd perfected over years of cons. I know I haven't been there, but I'm here now. I'm trying to make things right. Doesn't everyone deserve a second chance? Isn't that what family is about? Second chance? Margaret laughed, but there was no humor in it. This would be your 5th chance, Marcus. Or is it your 6th? I've lost count of how many times you've come back with promises and left with our money. That's not fair, Maggie. Don't call me that, she snapped. You lost the right to call me that when you stole Carol's life savings. Remember Carol? My best friend? The one you seduced and swindled? She still can't retire because of you. Marcus's jaw tightened. That was a misunderstanding. A business deal that went bad. I tried to make it right by disappearing. Bob stepped forward, his dentist hands clenched into fists. By leaving Jack to clean up your mess? By abandoning your son? I didn't abandon anyone, Marcus said, his voice getting harder. I left to protect you all. The people I owed money to, they weren't the forgiving type. I had to disappear to keep them from coming after my family. Lie, I said quietly. The people you owed money to were legitimate investors who went through proper legal channels. There were no threats, no danger, just consequences you didn't want to face. Marcus turned on me, his mask finally slipping. You always thought you were better than me, didn't you, Jack? Mr. Perfect with your MBA and your Manhattan apartment and your big shot job. You loved it when I failed. You loved being the successful brother while I struggled. I loved you, I said simply. You were my brother. I brought you into the business because you said you wanted to change, wanted to provide for your son. I trusted you with everything and you destroyed it all for what? For the appearance of success? For Instagram photos and fake business cards? I was building something, you were building nothing. The words exploded out of me, 5 years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. You were playing dress-up, Marcus. You were a child playing businessman, and when it got hard, when it required actual work and sacrifice and showing up every day, you took the easy way out. You stole from your own family and ran. Tyler stepped forward, his eyes fixed on his father. The Ferrari in the photos. Is it yours? Marcus hesitated for just a second too long. It's a company car. My company. What company? Tyler pressed. What's it called? Where's it registered? Who are your partners? It's complicated. Business structures you wouldn't understand. I'm 18, not 8, Tyler said. And I've been taking business classes. From Uncle Jack, actually. So explain it to me. What's your company called? Marcus's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Phoenix Enterprises. It's called Phoenix Enterprises. I pulled out my phone, did a quick search, and showed Tyler the screen. Phoenix Enterprises was dissolved 3 years ago for failure to pay registration fees. It never had any assets, never filed taxes, never did any actual business. It was a shell company, Tyler. Just like everything else your father touches. Marcus's face went red. You don't know what you're talking about. I've been rebuilding, rebranding. Under what name? I challenged. What state are you registered in? Who's your registered agent? What's your IN? Basic questions any legitimate business owner could answer. The silence stretched out, damning in its completeness. Marcus looked around the room, searching for an ally, for someone who still believed in him but found only cold, knowing stares. Tyler, he said finally, desperately. Son, please. I'm your father. That has to mean something. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was steady and sure. It does mean something. It means you contributed DNA. But Jack is the one who raised me. Jack is the one who showed up. Jack is the one who sacrificed everything for me. Jack is my father in every way that matters. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. His face crumbled, the mask finally falling away completely to reveal the desperate, hollow man underneath. I can change, he said. And for the first time, he sounded almost sincere. I know I've made mistakes, but I can change. I want to be better. I want to be the father you deserve. Maybe you can, Tyler said quietly. Maybe you will. But I can't wait for you anymore. I can't keep holding space in my life for someone who might show up someday. I have a father. He's standing right here. He's been here all along. Marcus looked at me, and for just a moment I saw my brother. Not the con man, not the thief, not the runner, but the kid I grew up with who used to be afraid of the dark and would crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The brother who'd stood as my best man at my wedding to Sarah before the divorce, before everything fell apart. The brother I'd tried so hard to save. I'm sorry, Jack, he said, and I almost believed him. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm sorry. For all of it, I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. There was too much history between us, too much pain and betrayal and love twisted into something unrecognizable. You should go, Margaret said, her voice gentle but firm, before someone calls the police. There are still warrants, Marcus. You know that. He nodded, looking older, suddenly defeated. Yeah, I know. He looked at Tyler one more time. I know you don't believe me, but I do love you, son. In my own broken way, I love you. Tyler didn't respond, just moved closer to me, and I put my arm around his shoulders. Marcus saw it, saw the choice being made, and something in him seemed to break. Take care of him, Jack, he said quietly. Better than I did. I always have, I replied. Marcus turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. We heard the front door open and close, heard a car engine start and fade into the distance. And just like that, he was gone again, leaving nothing behind but the ghost of what could have been. Tyler turned and buried his face in my shoulder, and I held him while he cried. This kid who wasn't mine but was mine in every way that mattered. The rest of the family gathered around us. Margaret and Bob and Pete and Sandra and Emma and even Ashley, forming a protective circle. A real family bound not by blood but by choice, by showing up, by staying. I'm sorry, Tyler kept saying. I'm so sorry. No more apologies, I told him. We're good. We're family. We're good. Later, after we'd cleaned up the broken glass and the scattered documents, after we'd eaten Margaret's pumpkin pie and talked about anything and everything except what had just happened, Tyler pulled me aside. The money, he said. The tuition, the $3,000. I want to pay you back. Every penny, I shook my head. That's not how it works, but you pay it forward, I said. Someday, someone you love is going to need help. Maybe it'll be your kid. Maybe it'll be a friend. Maybe it'll be a stranger. And you're going to help them. Not because you owe anyone anything, but because that's what we do. That's how we make the world better. One sacrifice at a time. Tyler nodded, understanding in a way he couldn't have an hour ago. Jack? Yeah? Would it be okay if I called you Dad? The word hit me like a physical force. Years of unspoken hope and fear and love wrapped up in 3 letters. You don't have to. I want to, he said firmly. If that's okay. If you're okay with it. I pulled him into another hug, this kid who'd hated me an hour ago and now wanted to call me Dad. Yeah, I said, my voice rough. Yeah, that's okay. The next morning, Black Friday, Tyler was up before dawn, not to go shopping but to sit with me at the kitchen table, looking through college catalogs. I want to change my major, he said, from business to education. I want to be a teacher, like you. Teaching doesn't pay much, I warned. No Ferraris in your future. He laughed, and it was a clean sound, free of bitterness. I don't need a Ferrari. I need to be someone who matters, who makes a difference, like you did for me. Tyler, I know it won't make up for how I treated you, he said quickly, but I want to honor what you did. I want to be the kind of man who would give up everything for family. I want to be like you. Be better than me, I said. Learn from my mistakes. Don't wait so long to tell the truth. Don't let people treat you badly because you think you're protecting them. Stand up for yourself. Know your worth. My worth, Tyler repeated, then smiled. I know my worth. I'm the son of Jack Mitchell, the man who sacrificed everything for his family. That's worth more than all the Ferraris in the world. Ashley came down the stairs then, having stayed in Emma's room overnight. She kissed Tyler on the cheek, then, to my surprise, kissed me on the cheek too. Thank you, she said simply, for raising the man I love. As the house slowly woke up, as Margaret started making breakfast and Bob made coffee and everyone gathered in the kitchen, I looked around at my family. Not the family I'd planned on having, not the life I'd thought I'd live, but something better. Something real. Tyler was helping Emma set the table, the two of them bickering like the siblings they essentially were. Pete was showing Bob something on his phone, probably pictures from his honeymoon. Sandra was helping Margaret with the eggs, learning the family recipe. Ashley was curled up in the corner chair, already part of the family, already belonging. Jack, Margaret called out, can you make your famous pancakes? Tyler's been bragging about them to Ashley. They're not that special, I protested, but I was already getting out the ingredients. They're the best pancakes in the world, Tyler said firmly. Dad makes them from scratch, no mix. He learned from our grandmother. Dad. The word still sent a shock through me every time he said it. It had only been 12 hours since everything had exploded, since the truth had come out, since Marcus had walked back into our lives and out again. But Tyler had already said it a dozen times, like he was making up for lost time. Like he was claiming something that had always been true but never acknowledged. As I mixed the batter, Tyler came to stand beside me, watching like he had when he was 13 and first came to live with us full-time. Can you teach me? He asked. The pancakes? I want to know how to make them. Sure, I said, showing him how to fold the wet ingredients into the dry, how to tell when the batter was just right. The secret is not overmixing. He wanted a little lumpy. Like life, Tyler said, and we both laughed. Yeah, I agreed. Like life. The pancakes were a hit, as always. We ate until we were stuffed. The conversation flowing easily now that the great secret was out, now that we didn't have to pretend anymore. Bob actually asked my advice about some investments he was considering. Pete wanted to know if I'd help him understand some of the more complex aspects of his new position at the bank. Even Emma, who'd always been a little distant with me, was warmer, asking if I could help her prep for her internship interviews. You know, Bob said, pouring his third cup of coffee. The dental practice really is expanding. I could use someone to manage the business side of things. Someone with actual financial experience, not just my fumbling attempts at bookkeeping. I looked at him, surprised. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership, he said. Equal partners. You handle the business, I handle the teeth. With your experience and my practice, we could open 2 more locations within a year. Bob, I started, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Margaret said firmly. It's time you stopped punishing yourself for Marcus's crimes. It's time you started building something for yourself again. For us, Tyler corrected. Build something for us, Dad, our family. Our family. I looked around the table at these people who'd taken me in when I'd lost everything, who'd judged me and forgiven me and loved me even when they didn't understand me. My family, okay, I said. Yes, let's build something. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of Tyler's dorm room helping him pack up for summer break. His roommate had already left, so it was just the 2 of us wrapping up textbooks and taking down posters. How's the business? Tyler asked, folding his clothes with the military precision I'd taught him. Good, I said, and meant it. We just hired our 10th employee. The 2nd location opens next month. And you're happy? I considered the question. 6 months ago, I would have said happiness was something I'd given up on, a luxury I couldn't afford. But now, with the business thriving, with Tyler calling me Dad like it was the most natural thing in the world, with the family accepting me not as the failure who lived in the guest house, but as an equal partner in our shared life, I could honestly say yes, I'm happy, I confirmed. What about you? How did finals go? All A's, Tyler said proudly. Professor Martinez says I have a real gift for education theory. She wants me to be her research assistant next year. That's amazing, Tyler, I'm proud of you. He stopped packing and looked at me. I need to tell you something. My heart sank a little. Okay, I saw him, Tyler said quietly. Marcus, my biological father. He was at the coffee shop near campus last week. I kept my face neutral. Did you talk to him? He tried to talk to me. Had a whole new story about a tech startup. Showed me a business card with a new company name, new promises about the future. Tyler shook his head. I told him I wasn't interested. Told him I already had a father. Tyler, if you want a relationship with him, I don't, Tyler said firmly. Maybe someday when he's actually changed, if he ever does. But right now I have everything I need. I have you. We finished packing in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from really knowing someone, from having weathered the storms and come out the other side. As we loaded the last box into my car, a new one, nothing fancy but reliable, Tyler pulled out an envelope. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a check for $3,000. Tyler, what? My first semester as a research assistant, he explained. It's not much, but it's a start. I want to start paying you back. I told you, you don't owe me anything. I know, he said. That's why I want to do it. Because I don't have to. Because you'd never ask, because you'd give me everything and expect nothing in return. That's what makes you my dad, and that's why I want to give back. I looked at the check, this symbol of everything we'd been through, everything we'd become to each other. Then I handed it back to him. Keep it, I said. Start your own savings. Build your own future. That's how you pay me back, but Tyler, you've already given me everything I wanted. You gave me a son. You gave me purpose when I thought I'd lost everything. You gave me the chance to matter to someone. That's worth more than any amount of money. He hugged me then, right there in the parking lot, not caring who saw. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. As we drove home, Tyler fiddling with the radio, singing along badly to songs I didn't recognize. I thought about Marcus, wherever he was, still running, still chasing his hollow dreams. I felt sorry for him, genuinely sorry. He'd had everything. A son who loved him, a family who would have supported him, chances to build something real, and he'd thrown it all away for smoke and mirrors. But his loss had been my gain. Tyler was mine now, not by blood, but by choice, by sacrifice, by showing up every day even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Hey, Dad, Tyler said as we pulled into the driveway. Yeah? Next Thanksgiving? Can we maybe just have a quiet dinner? No drama, no surprise visitors, no family secrets coming out. I laughed. I'll do my best, but you know this family. Drama finds us. True, he agreed. But at least now all the secrets are out. No more surprises. I thought about the ring in my bedroom drawer, the one I'd bought for Patricia, the woman I'd been dating for the past 3 months. The one I was planning to propose to at Christmas with Tyler's blessing, which he'd already given enthusiastically. But that was a surprise for another day, a good surprise, the kind that added to a family instead of tearing it apart. No more bad surprises, I agreed. We walked into the house together, father and son, not by birth but by choice, by love, by the 1,000 small sacrifices that make a family real. Margaret was in the kitchen already planning dinner. Bob was in his study going over the plans for the new office. Pete and Sandra were visiting for the weekend, their laughter echoing from the living room. Emma was home from her internship, regaling everyone with stories from the corporate world. "We're home," Tyler called out, and everyone came to greet us, this messy, complicated, beautiful family we'd built from the ashes of what we'd lost. That night, as I lay in my bed in what was no longer the guest house but my home, I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the theft that had destroyed my career but given me a son, the lies that had protected Tyler until he was ready for the truth, the confrontation that had shattered his illusions but freed us all from the weight of secrets. I thought about Marcus's words that Thanksgiving night. St. Jack, always sacrificing himself for others. It's actually kind of pathetic when you think about it. Maybe he was right in his way. Maybe it was pathetic to give up everything for others. But as I listened to the sounds of my family settling in for the night, Tyler's music playing softly from his room, Margaret and Bob's quiet conversation drifting through the walls, I knew I wouldn't change a thing. Because sometimes the biggest failures lead to the greatest successes. Sometimes losing everything means gaining what really matters. And sometimes, the family you choose, the family you build through sacrifice and love and showing up every day, is stronger than any bond of blood could ever be. The next morning, Tyler knocked on my door early just as the sun was coming up. "Want to go for a run?" he asked. "Like we used to." I groaned, but I was already getting out of bed. "You know I'm old now, right? 46 is not 23. You're not old. Dad, you're experienced." We ran through the neighborhood as the world woke up around us. Past the park where I'd taught him to throw a curveball. Past the school where I'd attended every parent-teacher conference when Margaret couldn't make it. Past the coffee shop where we'd had the hard conversations about girls and grades and growing up. "I've been thinking," Tyler said as we stopped to catch our breath, "about Marcus, about nature versus nurture, heavy thoughts for a morning run." "I'm serious," he said. "I have his DNA. His tendency to run when things get hard, to choose the easy lie over the difficult truth. What if I turn out like him?" I looked at this young man who'd faced the destruction of his illusions with grace, who'd chosen truth over comfortable lies, who'd had the courage to admit his mistakes and make amends. "You already have turned out," I said, "and you're nothing like him. You're brave where he's cowardly. You're honest where he's false. You stay when he runs. You're not your DNA, Tyler, you're your choices. And every choice you've made since learning the truth has proved that you're exactly the man I always knew you could be." "Because of you," he said. "Because you showed me what a real man looks like." "Because of you," I corrected. "Because you chose to see it, to accept it, to change. That's all you, Tyler. That's the man you are." We ran back home in comfortable silence, and as we turned into the driveway, Tyler said, "Dad, thank you. For everything. For the sacrifice, for the truth, for the second chance. For being my father when you didn't have to be." "Tyler," I said, putting my hand on his shoulder, "being your father isn't something I have to do. It's something I get to do. It's the greatest privilege of my life." And it was. Despite everything we'd lost, everything we'd sacrificed, everything we'd endured, it was. Because in the end, family isn't about blood or money or success as the world defines it. It's about showing up. It's about staying when leaving would be easier. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when it costs everything. Especially when it costs everything. Because that's when you learn what really matters. That's when you discover that the things you thought were failures were actually the foundations of your greatest success. That's when you realize that sometimes losing everything is the only way to gain what you were meant to have all along. A family, a son, a purpose, a life that matters, not bad for a failure. Not bad at all.